Right, so I've never done a story time on this channel before, so I hope you enjoy it and I hope you learn one or two things from the story that I'll be sharing with you today. And if you like this story time, let me know in the comment section if you like more story times like this or not. Hello everyone, welcome again to my YouTube channel. It's your girl Farida. Thank you for clicking on today's video. If you're a new viewer, welcome to my channel and don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, a part of the family, thank you for coming back and stay tuned for today's video. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you a story time, an interesting story time on my West accommodation at university. And by accommodation at university, I mean private accommodation. I do not mean living in university halls. I'll also be sharing some tips on how to rent in the UK and especially how to rent in London so that you do not fall into the wrong hands when you're trying to find accommodation. So grab your popcorns, grab your drink and let's enjoy this story together. So this particular accommodation that is my West accommodation so far is a one that I got for a very cheap rent, and by very cheap rent I mean £300, which is absolutely cheap for accommodation in London. I was trying to move out from my former place, and when I saw this place I was like, oh, that is so cheap, £300 for a double room in London. I was like, that is so cool. If you want to find accommodation in the UK, if you want to find accommodation in London in particular, there are websites where you can easily search for rooms like Spare Room, like Easy Roommates, like uni places where you can easily put up an ad or just search for available rooms in the place in your local area or in the particular place that you want to move to. So I went on to Spare Room, found this place for £300. I thought that was really cool. And £300 for a double room, like you don't get anything better than that in London. So I went to this place and I knocked on the door. Like I've sent a message to them on the app before, said, oh, I'm gonna come to do a viewing to them. And they were like, oh yeah, it's fine, come today at this particular time. So I went, and the lady that was there to show me the room was someone that I thought was just living in the house, like just a tenant. So she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show you the room today. And she showed me the room and it was like really nice. It was a double room with a double bed for £300. Like when I saw that, I was like, I'm definitely not letting this go. I was like, I definitely have to rent this place. But it wasn't that easy because they wanted me to pay 2 months rent in advance. The way it works in London is that when you want to rent a place, the landlord or the agent will ask for 1 month deposit or 6 months rent in advance or 6 months deposit or 2 months rent in advance, something like that. But in my case, the lady that I met said that, oh, for me to rent this particular room, I need to pay 2 months rent in advance. But to be honest, like even though I was trying to rent a place, I didn't actually have that money at that point in time because I was still like looking at places to rent, and I was gonna get paid on the Friday. So I was like, oh, is it possible for them to keep the room for me until Friday when I'll be able to pay the 2 months rent in advance, even though it was just £600, but at that particular point in time I didn't have it. I was still waiting for when I'd get paid on Friday. And the lady was like, oh yeah, that's cool, like we'll keep the room for you because we like you, and you can rent the place, and when you have the money on Friday, just bring the money. So when I had the money on Friday, I went back to the house and I was like, oh, now I have the money, what can I pay the money into, where's the account number? And she was like, no, you don't pay into an account and you have to pay cash. And that was why I was just like, okay, paying cash for a particular room is actually not exactly ideal, because like that is obviously shady. I've not even signed a contract and I've not signed anything, and you want me to pay 2 months rent in advance in cash. But obviously because they already kept the room for me and where I was living I had to move out already, so I just was like, okay fine, I'll just give you the money. And the mistake I even made was that I gave the money to the lady, and then she was like, she was going to give the money to the landlord. I think I was a bit foolish too when I was renting this place, because I was like, for me to like actually go to a place and see one person, I didn't, and that was not even the actual landlord of the place, and give the money to this person, and she gave me the keys. It didn't sound right. On that day when I paid the rent, I signed a tenancy agreement, she gave me the keys, and I had a room. But it didn't even end there, because when I was about to sign the agreement, I was like, okay, this is the landlord's name, this is the space for my name, this is the name, the space for the date and the signature and all of that jazz. And then it was like, okay, how come your name is on the contract? Because obviously the assumption is that you are a tenant in the house. And when I was speaking to this person on Spare Room, it was like they were the landlord, and it said the place is a live-out landlord. So one more thing also, if you want to rent a place, make sure that you do not rent a place that has a living landlord, because you do not want the extra stress of living with someone in their own house. So make sure that when you want to get a place that has a live-out landlord, and make sure that it's actually a live-out landlord and there's no one else as a caretaker or whatever in the house. So in this case, the lady's name was on the tenancy agreement, and it didn't make sense because obviously your name is not supposed to be on the tenancy agreement, because you just sort of like, I thought she was just helping the landlord out because he could not make it or something. And so because obviously where I was living, I had to move out. There was no time for me to start trying to find a place again, because it was like a place I could find at that point in time. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just sign the agreement. And she was like, oh yeah, the reason why my name is on the agreement is because I'm the caretaker. But no one told me that before. No one said that before. Like, no one said that days before, when I had to like prepare the money. And because I knew, okay, fine, I already had this place secure. I already gave my word I was going to come back and rent this place. I already stopped searching for rooms. So like, it was like, okay, I'm in a one chance now. Like, there's nothing I can do. So I signed the agreement with the landlord's name on it, with my name on it, with that lady's name on it also. And obviously that was like a shady agreement from the start, but I didn't complain. I kept living in the house. Like, it was like fine from the start. It was like really cool. Like, everyone just minding their business. If I see in the morning, if I see other tenants in the morning, we'll say I chat, like have little chat, and that's it. And so, well, it didn't even end there. So this story is about to get even more juicy, and that is like the interesting bit of the story time, and that's why it's like my worst experience ever. This house, this particular place, didn't have Wi-Fi at all in the room. Like, the house didn't have Wi-Fi, so like if I want my own Wi-Fi, I need to obviously pay for it. And that was like, oh dear, like this is not good. Like, even though it's very cheap, it's £300, I'd have to take transport, I'd have to get on the train to get to work from the house, and then I'd have to buy my own Wi-Fi. But I was like, obviously with £300, like, I can't even complain that much because it's so cheap. So I got a contract to my provider, and that way I had like internet on my phone. So I don't know if you guys are affected by this also, but like whenever I get like a monthly plan or whatever, it doesn't last for a month. Like, maximum it lasts for 2 weeks or 1 week or 2.5 weeks, and that's it. After those 2 weeks, I won't have data on my phone. So I was like, okay, now 2 weeks is gone. There's no internet on my phone. There's no internet in the house. I want to do uni work. I can't do it. But luckily, there was a library very close to where I live, so I'd go there to do my work whenever I didn't have data on my phone. So it was cool. It was fine. Like, I was like, okay, I'll just like have to live with that. And it really got worse when the eating in the house also like was not working. So it was like, I've just moved into this house and the eating is not working. First day I went to the video space, I was like, is everything in the house working properly? Is the eating okay? And she was like, yeah, the eating was okay, the radiator was working properly. But that wasn't the case. I'd go to uni, go to work, come back, and the room would be like freaking cold, like very, very cold. It took a while for them to fix it, but eventually they fixed it. Even though it was fixed, like every now and then the eating will still not work. And as a Nigerian that I am, obviously I'm not used to like the cold, and I don't want to like come back from outside where it's really, really cold and then get back to my room and then still experience so much cold again. So like, when you want to rent a place, make sure that the eating is working properly. Make sure that when you want to rent this particular place, that the bills are also included in the rent. Don't rent a place that will tell you, oh now, oh this is the rent is £400, and you have to pay for bills, you have to pay for electricity, for water, for gas. Don't rent that kind of place, because you give yourself too much stress, because obviously you've come here to study and stuff. You don't want to have to like worry about rent and have to worry about gas and electricity and water. You don't need all of that stress. Final bit that really pissed me off about this place was the fact that there were mice in the room. So I'd come back from work, no eating, nothing, no Wi-Fi, and then I'll come back to my room and I'd make mice playing around in the room, having fun. And it's like, this is not right. Like, even my room will be like clean and everything, and then I'll still come back to meet mice in the room like playing around. Like, and I spoke to the lady, because that's the only person I could still communicate with. It was like, what kind of house is this? Like, this is obviously not good, because if you leave something edible in your room, you don't want to come back and think that, oh, has something like touched it, has something eaten from it or anything. And she was like, I should just get a mouse trap. And it's like, I'm paying rent to live here. I should not be sharing the room with mice. I should not have to come back to a cold room about coming back to mice in my room. Like, this is not right. And they couldn't fix that. Like, for all of the time I lived there, I'd come back from work and there'll be at least one mouse in the room. And you don't want that stress, to be honest. Like, after coming back from uni, from work, you don't want to come back to a room with a mouse. And then the worst bit of all was when I went shopping one day. This particular day, I had to like just leave all of my shopping on the bed and quickly go out, and with the hope that I was going to come back really soon. When I eventually came back to the house, my shopping had already been eaten by the mouse. And I was like, this is definitely not good. If I had a long day, one thing you don't want to experience is having to deal with mice in your room. and have your shopping eaten by mice. Also, it was like, this is not good, and they still couldn't fix it. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't even fumigate the room or do anything to stop the mice from coming in. And it was like, I need to obviously start looking for a place now, because even though this is a cheap room, I'm not having peace of mind. Like, if you're renting a place for a very little amount, and then you don't have peace of mind living there, what is the point? So like, this story is not even finished. I hope you're still with me. As an international student, I work 20 hours per week, and I also like go to uni. Like, I've been busy with uni, busy with work, and then on a Saturday finally I'm free, and I was like, fine, I need to actually do some cooking today and actually eat some good food. And going to the kitchen, and the lady is like, oh, today is my day to cook, you can cook. And I'm like, sorry, who sets this kind of rules? Because it doesn't make sense for you to say someone can cook. Like, someone that has not been in the house for 5 days, mostly someone that's not been in the house and they've not done any cooking, and today they can actually finally do some cooking for themselves, and you're like, you can't allow them to cook because it's your day to cook. And I'm like, this is absolute rubbish. Like, you can't do this. Like, I'm paying rent to live here. You can't tell me I can't cook whenever I want to cook. Because if this was something that was said to me before, I would have obviously like had an idea about, okay, this is how it works. But all of a sudden, like after a month or 2 months of living there, you just suddenly like, oh, you can't cook on Saturdays. Like, this, I didn't know this before. Like, this was not part of the rules before. This is not included in the tenancy agreement, part of the house rules or whatever. When you rent a place, some houses will have house rules that you need to follow, so you need to also be aware of that. Places will tell you that you have to be back by 10 p.m. or something, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if you're trying to find a place and they tell you, oh, there's a coffee time, don't rent that kind of place, because when you rent, you'll be putting yourself into so much stress, because you don't want a place that will tell you, oh, you have to be back by 10 p.m, you have to be back by 11 p.m or 12 p.m. Whatever you do with your time is your business. Whatever time you feel like coming back to the house is your business. So when you want to rent a place, make sure that you meet the landlord, make sure that you sign a proper agreement, make sure that there's no caretaker, there's no living person, there's no agent. Make sure that when you rent this particular place, the landlord's eyes and mouth and nose are not living in the house. Make sure that you're renting a place with actual tenants and not with caretakers or agents or anything like that. Make sure that whatever place you want to rent has eating, as proper eating, has bills included in the rent, because you do not want that stress. Make sure that whatever place you want to rent also has Wi-Fi included in the rent, because you do not want the stress of okay, now I don't have data on my phone but I need to get work done. Make sure that you get proper places, look into these places, make sure that you do your investigation, make sure that you do your own research before you actually move into this particular place, so that you don't put yourself into the stress that I went through. And make sure that obviously, as part of like not renting a place with living landlords or with landlords agents or with landlords ears and mouth and all of that, make sure that you live with people that are obviously like mentally correct and mentally sane. Because in this particular case, this lady that I was living with was not mentally sane, and she'd be like, she like the way she'd act sometimes would be like really, really ridiculous. Like, there was this time I actually had an argument, and she was like shouting, blood of Jesus, blood of Jesus, blood of Jesus, blood of Jesus. And I'm like, sorry, what? Blood of what? Because of what? And like, she was not even saying blood of Jesus and like saying that alone. She was literally like holding a spray and spraying it around her like I don't know how to describe it. Rent a place with mad people, please. Make sure that you check very well. You rent a proper place, and let's make sure that the landlord gives you a how to rent guide. Make sure that your landlord protects your deposit, because when you want to move out, you don't want someone to withhold your money and say that, oh, this happened in the house, this happened in the house, blah 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 happened in the house, the window is broken, the ceiling is broken. You don't want something like that. And on that note, make sure that when you move in, you take pictures of the house, like take proper pictures of the house, so that you know, okay, this, when I moved in, this was how the house was. When I moved out, this is how the house is. And compare, obviously, so that if the landlord says, oh, when you moved in, the fan was broken, you tell them, no, when I moved in, the fan was not broken, because obviously I have pictures of it. I have a record of the state of the room when I moved in. So that is basically the end of the story time. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you'd like more story times like this, let me know in the comment section. And thank you for watching today's video. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, make sure to subscribe. Click the subscribe button. It's literally easy to subscribe. So subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more videos. See you again next time. Bye.